Okay, hi everyone. When I first did this video, the audio didn't actually record, so I'm trying to go back over this footage and do a voiceover now, so sorry if it's a little wonky. We've got Unit 9 this week. It's gels. So we're going to have two different compounds. They're both in a PLO gel, which is a very common thing that we use to compound with. It basically makes it a transdermal gel, which means that the skin's going to absorb it. We have a Diclofenac 5% in PLO. We're going to be making that for stock. And then a diltiazem 2%, and that's going to be for rectal use. So in this video, I'm going to go over the Diclofenac 5% for stock, and I'll do another one for the rectal gel. Okay, so here's your prescription. Like I said here, so 5% PLO we have there for stock. So it's pretty common in pharmacy for us to make things for stock. So we'll make a large amount because it's quite common that people want this medication. So we'll use it up before it expires, and we're going to make a larger amount. Diclofenac is something that's used when people have arthritis or sore muscles. It's an NSAID. So something that I wanted to do a little bit different this time, instead of providing you with a formula, I want you to see some different examples. So if you go to that link and select the 5% diclofenac, you're going to get a formula that looks like this. So it's going to have the same information that we normally would, it just looks a little bit different. So I just wanted to expose you guys to some different formulas. So please take a look at that, ask me any questions that you might have. But that's where I got the formula for this. Now, I didn't bring the Maxima brand PLO home, so you might just see in the video that I'm not using Maxima, but following that formula, we should use their brand of product if we're going to be using their formula, or get a pharmacist to okay the substitution. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Again, I wasn't allowed to bring drug home. So for my diclofenac, I'm going to be using icing sugar because that most resembles a micronized powder. So it's going to look pretty similar to how diclofenac would. Okay. So, yep, just pulling up that prescription again. We're going to be making 100 grams in PLO, 5%, which is exactly what our formula says. Diclofenac is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. People use it a lot for arthritis or for sore muscles. The brand name for it in an OTC form is Voltaren. So you might see that OTC on the shelf, but we just compound it to make the higher concentrations. Okay, so making sure to put my gloves on. Always new gloves whenever I'm starting a new compound, and switch them if they get dirty. Okay, so this is, I'm just showing you here the PLO kits that we have. There's two parts to them. So this is part A. It's liquid when it's at room temperature. It's kind of a yellow color and consistency. I'm just trying to show you that it's liquid in that bottle there. Okay. Again, that kind of like yellowy brown. I've got it pre-measured on the side here. Okay, so because that's liquid, the things that we're going to be mixing together, it doesn't make sense to do it on an ointment pad or an ointment slab. So I will be mixing this in a mortar and pestle, which is quite common. Okay, so this is my 5 grams of diclofenac / icing sugar. And again, I don't have a scale, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it. But the technique is going to be the same. In lab, of course, you would measure it and get a check. Okay, So I'm going to be measuring out my ethyl alcohol here to use as my levigating agent to make a paste. Just following that formula's instructions. Okay, and it's okay to add it all at once. It doesn't specify to add in portions. So I'm just going to mix that together until it's all dissolved. We don't really want clumps of powder. So our rules for geometric dilution don't apply to this compound because we're basically mixing a powder into a liquid. And there's a really cool thing that you'll see when we add those. So PLO has two parts. There's part A and part B. They're both liquids. When we mix them together, there's a chemical reaction that makes it go into a gel, but they all are going to start as liquids. So it's okay to just mix together, and we're not going to be worried about geometric dilution for this one. There I am, just making sure there's no clumps on the side. We're going to mix it until it's a uniform slurry or paste, following our formula directions. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add part A that I have pre-measured here. Okay, so it's kind of that yellowy color. It's a little bit thicker. Yeah, again, that's that part A. There I am, just showing you part A and part B. Yeah, so they're both liquid, and we're going to mix them together. Sorry, this voiceover is kind of awkward. I don't really remember all of what I was saying while I did this, but that's the base. Here's me just checking my directions that it's all at once, and it is. So we're going to go ahead and add that part A and mix until it's uniform. You can kind of see in the video it's a little bit of a thicker liquid. It's not sticky, it's almost oily or something. Okay, so that goes in pretty easily. Okay, and then I'm going to measure my part B. Now the cool thing about part B, when it's at room temperature, it's actually solid. It goes to a gel when it's at room temperature. So I had to keep that in the fridge right at the back, so it was cold, cold, cold. And then I actually had it on an ice pack next to me while I was compounding, just because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. Usually when I compound that, I keep it in the fridge, or I measure it out and put it back in the fridge so that it stays liquid and I can pour it out. Your formula there asks that you weigh it out, so you could do this in a weigh boat as well. Some formulas will give you a milliliter amount as well. I didn't have a scale at home, so I went for what was closest in milliliters to make this work. Okay, so I had to do 2 additions because I only took a 50 ml cylinder home. This is just me showing you that, again, it goes solid quite fast, so this is kind of an annoying day when we do it in lab. There's a small film of that part B in all of the cylinders that we have to try and scrub out. Okay, now because it is quite cold, it takes a while to go into gel form, so I just have to mix those two together. As you can see, it's still quite liquidy. We just mix it and mix it until it goes into a gel. Mixing. So as you can see, the geometric dilution is not necessary because it stays liquid until it starts to go. So that's me just trying to show you there that it is quite runny, almost pancake batter-esque. It looks like pancake batter. It's about the right color. And just keep mixing. So I did a little bit of a hyperlapse there, but you can see right at the end, it goes into a thicker paste. It's still quite cool at this point. Like, like when I'm touching it there with my hands, I can feel that the compound is still kind of cold. So as it comes to room temperature, it will solidify even more than it already is. Just because that part B, when it gets to room temperature, the chemical properties are going to change a little bit more. But that's basically that reaction between the part A and the part B of the PLO kit. It's going to come together and make a gel. Okay. Now, I didn't show you the packaging here, but it would be very similar to your foot ointment. We're just going to scrape out all of the contents there, making sure to clean up our pestle very good with our rubber spatula. But it will hold its shape pretty well, so I would try and do, you know, a little bit of a more on-purpose finish when we've got it in our ointment pot.